Welcome into the Boston Sports Summit MLB Trade Deadline special, where we're going to be going on from now until an hour after the deadline, which the deadline ends at 6. So myself, Dylan, and we're going to be bringing you the whole MLB Trade Deadline. I am your host, Tim Barnett. This is the Boston Sports Summit presented by the Grid Network. Dylan, how are we feeling about the trade deadline today?
I mean, it's definitely one of the most exciting parts of the MLB season. There's so many trades that went down. I mean, I'm amazed that what's his name for the Marlins with the Yankees, Josh Chisholm. I thought that was a insane trade that was out of left field. And then you had the Soler trade back to the Braves, and I mean, there's so many more. We'll obviously get to it all, but it's definitely exciting when you see a bunch of moves happen.
Yeah, no, for sure. And when I'm looking at, everything that's going on, and at the start of this season, I was one of the guys from the get-go just talking about how I want the Red Sox to sell. I want them in last place because I want that, like, in spite of John Henry. I've talked about it ad nauseum on this show. So now, sitting here, this team needs to buy. And not only just buy like marginal pieces. No. We need to buy big. That is really where I think the Red Sox, um, you know, have to think about. And so far, they really haven't done that. With the addition of Paxton, Quinn Priester, Danny Jansen, and now this kid from the Reds, Lucas Sims. I'm looking around going, yeah, okay, but come on, like you really have to sell me on this. And I'm afraid that what's going to happen is they're going to be like, oh, yeah, our main goal was to prepare for next year, which if I swear to God, if Craig Breslow says that right after the trade deadline, if we're done with this show and he says that, I'm going to come back and just rip him to shreds because that's going to drive me up a wall.
You have every right to, man. It's so frustrating, especially. I mean, again, we're spoiled Boston fans, so it's so easy to look at the Red Sox, and you look at teams like the Celtics that just won, the Patriots are still only a couple years from their last championship. It's like, why aren't you competing? We have this high expectation, and I mean, especially with how the AL East is coming out, like the Orioles and the Yankees are tied right now, which I mean, so that alone is already an uphill battle. And then even when you get to the playoffs now, it's scary because I mean, first and foremost, John Henry hates spending money. He has so many assets and so many other teams that I think the baseball is the last thing he truly cares about. But it is a promising team, and they've given you hope, and hope is one of the most dangerous things to have at the like, especially when you're on that fringe of the playoffs. Maybe you can make a run if the Red Sox stick together and not get any too terrible injuries. But sad reality is that I agree with you. They're not quite there yet. They still need more to work on, but they're
Mm-hmm.
definitely trending in the right direction. Like I thought they were going to be way worse coming into the season than where they are right now. So if anything, I think it's just they're trending positive.
Yeah, well, so what's going to happen is, I'm paying attention to everything you're saying, but I also have my second laptop pulled up because I got X open. I have MLB, network going, trying to see what's going on. And the latest report from John Morosi as of 5 o'clock, 5 minutes ago, is that Roman Anthony, one of the top three Red Sox prospects, is scratched from the lineup today for Double-A Portland. That is huge. Because again, everything's all about who's scratched, who's not going to play, and if he's scratched, that could mean there is a deal in place. And Jack Flaherty, the starting pitcher for Detroit, was scratched last night from his start. So are we going to see a pitcher come through, for Roman Anthony? What do you think is going to happen with that one?
Yeah, I mean, pitching is definitely a weak spot for the Red Sox. They definitely need some reliable rotation pieces, and if they're willing to give one of the top prospects away, like it doesn't matter what team you're on, you always want to keep your prospects. They're always big projects, and considering how great Roman Anthony's been, um, if they could sell high and actually get a solid pitcher to put into that rotation, I could only see the Red Sox only being substantially better because. I mean, you could do as much as you can with your bats, and the Red Sox have been showing they can clobber the ball. But if your pitching can't keep up, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, Roman Anthony is the number 2 prospect for the Red Sox and the number 14 prospect in all of baseball. So that's that's something I think we're going to be, going to have to pay attention to, um, as to whether or not it's going to be a deadline related deal. But one of the things I do want to talk about is before uh, last night's game. So let's just look at the wild card standings right now. Okay. So where the Red Sox sit, they sit 56 and 49. They're a game back of the Royals. They would have been tied for the third wild card spot had the Royals lost last night. And they almost did. It's just that the White Sox suck and absolutely blew it. So this series versus the Mariners also helps the Sox build that that lead over them. So they have a game and a half lead over the Mariners. So the more they beat the Mariners, the better it's going to look. The thing, though, is there was an article that came out just the other day that did a trade evaluation on the Boston Red Sox as to should they be buyers, should they be sellers, what's going on, right? And at the time of this article, the Boston Red Sox record was 54 and 46 with a run differential plus 42. They were third in the division behind six games behind and one back from the wild card. So kind of similar to where they're at right now. The trade evaluation history says to buy, all caps, BUY. And then it goes, it's kind of hilarious how closely these Red Sox resemble last year's Red Sox, who at the same point in the season were 54 and 47 with a plus 47 run differential and sat 8.5 games back of the AL East and 2 back of the wild card spot. That team attempted to thread the needle, but didn't move the needle and traded away Kike Hernandez and bringing in Luis Urias. A different front office is a change this year. Craig Breslow has suggested he's only going to choose one lane at the deadline. The Red Sox can use help on the middle infield, especially. So, do you agree with this assessment? Do you think that the Red Sox should be buyers or should be sellers?
I see that's so tough because I mean they're a young team, so I feel like there's no reason for them to build for the future much longer.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think now you should really be like, all right, you have your young talent, you have a good foundation. Now it's time to start bringing in some legitimate pieces that can be right now contributors because I don't like you either have to be all in or all out. So it's either like if you try to half step it and try to get a little bit of minor league compensation and still try to get maybe some major league quality players, like it's just you're gonna get diminished returns. The best thing that they could do right now, especially if Roman Anthony is looking to be traded, you have to get something that is major league ready right now. You want to push because I mean, again, especially when you have all these low contracts and everything, and you're already competing, there's no reason not to. Like if anything, if John Henry doesn't do anything, and the front office doesn't do anything to progress this team to actually make them contenders, it's just like, why should we ever take them seriously at the end of the day?
Yeah, and that's the I think the going notion, right? Is like this is the Boston Red Sox. You mentioned earlier how Boston is spoiled, and to some degree, yeah, you're right. But I don't look at it as spoiled when I want my team to compete, whether it's the Pats, the Bruins, the Red Sox, or the Celtics. I want my team to compete for a championship. That means going out, making moves. And you know what? If you swing for the fences by signing Carl Crawford, signing Pablo Sandoval, I know I'm using Red Sox references, but even still, you go out, you make those signings. Hey, you know what? Sometimes it falls flat in your face. but you made the effort, you made the move. And guess what? Baseball's easy to just get rid of contracts like that. So it really wasn't that big of a deal at the end of the day. But it's funny you bring up. So going off that, like it's about competing. I'm not necessarily wanting like I of course want to win every single year. I mean, who wouldn't, right? It's about winning. The only thing is, I understand it's not going to happen every year, but as long as you go out and you make the concerted effort to win, that's what I want. So with how the Red Sox have been assembled over the last, God, what, 5 seasons? Ever since they traded Mookie Betts, or the 2019 team where they, in my opinion, suspended Alex Cora for no reason. That like it's they hadn't made the effort. The effort is been awful because you had a superstar player in Mookie Betts, and you're like, nah, I don't want to pay this guy. Like it's ridiculous. And so, yes, with this team, it's young, it's exciting, they're fun, but with everything else that's gone on, I mean, Chad Finn of the Globe wrote, "It's tough to say, but the Red Sox should not make a major move at this time." And it's funny you said that it's all the contracts and everything, because he agrees. He says the Red Sox probably are better off in the long run if they add only modestly and subtract players with expiring contracts and legitimate trade appeal. Well, if you subtract contracts with legitimate trade appeal, that means you're going to be sellers at the deadline, because the two guys that really have that are Kenley Jansen and Tyler O'Neill. Two guys who have helped you this season and only want for this team to get better. He later goes on to talk about, had the Red Sox gone, say, 5-4 out of the break, Craig Breslow's decision might be more difficult, but the struggles mean that there should not be temptation to swing big. And that's what pisses me off, is that this team needs to swing big. This isn't the Yankees with a already stacked lineup where you can add modestly. You don't have to go for the fences. This is look at the 2018 Red Sox. That team was stacked. All you had to do was add modestly, and they did. Nathan Eovaldi, Steve Pearce, just as a couple examples. That's what teams that are built to win should do. This team is surprising. They're young. They need to go get make a major move. We got 45 minutes until the trade deadline ends. This team it's not even in my opinion. I think all of Red Sox Nation understands they need to make a massive move in order for this team, for us to take the Red Sox seriously down the run. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like they have nothing to lose. Like, it's one thing if they were handicapped. It's one thing if they had aging veterans that are making significant contributions. I mean, looking through the Red Sox roster right now, I mean, there's a couple untouchables. Like, obviously, Yoshida's an untouchable. Devers, I wouldn't touch in a billion years. Even like Tyler O'Neill and Durant are both solid pieces where it's like, if you kind of need those guys. And and again, if you have the farm talent, you have in this value, like I understand it where it's like you don't want to be desperate. Like if they're just trying to force a move for the sake to force a move, then maybe they should double think it. But if there is an offer on the table that's significant, you see immediate value, there's no reason not to, especially where they are now. Like if they were close to 500 and weren't like a fringe playoff team, then whatever, stay still, maybe get a little more young talent. But you have to strike while the iron's hot, because that also sends a message to the rest of the guys in the locker room too, where it's like if they get a big piece, then they know that the front office has confidence in them and it's time to go all in. And they will respond, especially with the fans, how ravenous Boston fans are. They will respond positively if there is something to respond to.
Well, speaking of responding, reported by Chris Cotillo of Mass Live, Roman Anthony's scratch not deadline related per source.
Mm, I'm
That
fine with
sucks.
it. Yeah,
mean,
but eh,
like, it's just it's and listen, if Roman Anthony makes it to the majors either by the end of this year or next year, and he's just a stud, he's a budding superstar. Him, Meyer, Teal, if all these guys are who all these reporters hope and say they're going to be, then fine. That'll be a fun trio to watch down the road. But the problem is, it's down the road. Like, I'm not interested in the future of the Red Sox. I'm interested in the here and now. I mean, hell, you got Jared Duran, Cedane Rafaela, Wilyer Abreu, Tanner Houck. Like, these guys are Brian Bayo, if he can ever get his mind right. These guys are young. These guys are the here and now, and they've got they're with the team for an extended period of time. And Tristan Cassis, if you want to include his dumbass, but like I'm okay with. You know what? If we can get younger and better by giving up some of these guys, then let's do it. Let's go for it right now. Because if we give up, let's say Roman Anthony, and we got Jack Flaherty in return, guess what? Jack Flaherty's going to be here, and we're going to be, good for the. He's going to be a good pitcher for us for the foreseeable future. Like that's what kind of pisses me off. And as I mentioned on my show last week, we made a deal for James Paxton from the Dodgers, who was getting DFA'd, and then we traded for him for Moses Bolivar, who honestly is, if memory serves, he's unranked, from our prospect pool. So it's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a loss for us. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, great. Like, what does this prove to me? The only deal that you could argue there's something to be talking about is, the Nick York for Quinn Priester. But Quinn Priester is, like, he's not somebody that's going to save us now. He's going to save us in the future. Save is not what I mean, but like, he's hopefully will be good in the future. Same thing with Nick York. Like, they're both those guys. It's prospect for prospect, basically.
it's so hard with the MLB too, because it's like when it comes to other leagues, like they have just a very small developmental league. Maybe you'll have like let's just say like the G League for the NBA. Like you have an extra roster of players. And like even like the NHL, they also have their own developmental league as well. The MLB has like 5 teams underneath them. You got your AAA, your AA, your single A, you got your your low low A underneath that too. So it's like you have so many players on your roster, and it's like, yeah, great, this dude can contribute 3 years from now. But if you have your window open now, what's the point about worrying about 3 years from now? And even then, it's like, what if he crashes out where, injuries happen, or he just ends up not being cracked up what he used to be. Now you just spent all this time in developing, hoping he would be that next person, when in reality you just took 3 years of a setback. So I like, it's so hard because I just think the Red Sox are in a tough spot right now where they're so close to being a real competitive team, but the amount of work that it needs to do would require such a commitment that sadly John Henry just doesn't want. It's like maybe, and again, sadly, it's probably might going to be the next year. We're going to start hearing about the next year already, where it's like, come this free agency, we're going to be buyers, we swear, but it's like we're going to have the same song and dance that we've had the past 5 years, it feels like.
Yeah, and of all the guys we've given up, so again, we first traded for James Paxton, which didn't excite me. Then we made the surprising move to acquire Danny Jansen, the backup catcher for the Blue Jays, for Cutter Coffee, Edison Paulino, and Gilberto Batista, where Edison Paulino is the number 15th prospect in the Red Sox farm system. Cutter Coffee is number 28, and Gilberto Batista is unranked as well. Then we made the number 12 prospect Nick York trade for Quinn Priester. And then today we made the trade where number 29 prospect Ovis Portes for Lucas Sims of the Reds. And a lot of people are, I think looking at that deal as more of a, okay, that's more for a here and now type deal. But everything that they did doesn't excite me. It doesn't jump off the page as a Red Sox fan where we have 38 minutes until the trade deadline. Are we really going to make this big splash, or are we just going to keep sitting back, sitting on our heels, making some middling moves, just being like, see, we bought, this is it. Give us a round of applause, everybody. And it's like, no, you did. I would have almost rather you done nothing than, make these moves.
I think they're just, from those trades, it doesn't surprise me that how the Red Sox are kind of treating the deadline, where they're just like, we're just trying to fill out position spots here. Hopefully something breaks the right way for us. And I think they really don't consider themselves real contenders, sadly. And it's almost a win-win for them, because it's like, if they make the playoffs, great. They got something to build on. They could really look at that and maybe consider, oh, maybe we should really start looking towards next year. And then if they don't make the playoffs, and it's like, oh, we expected this, now it's time to continue building off of what we got. Again, it's the same message worded differently depending on the outcome. And it's like the only thing the worst case scenario would just be a catastrophic failure. Mm-hmm. Which I hopefully doesn't happen, but if it does happen, then man, it's going to be ugly for sure.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I want to move on for a little bit. I want to have some fun. I'm going to read you some classic Red Sox trades, and I want you to tell me what your thoughts on them were. I want you to give me a grade. So it's going to be on the spot. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So the first one happened back in 1997. Derek Lowe and Jason Varitek were traded to Boston from Seattle for Heathcliff Solcombe. What were your thoughts on that?
I mean, that's an A. Because, Varitek was a long-time contributor, same with Derek Lowe. And I don't even know who you said that even got traded away from the Red Sox. So that's I think that's an easy A, if not a high B.
Yeah, no, that's a straight A+. The captain and a sinker ball pitcher, and Derek Lowe, who honestly sucked as a closer. But then when he became the fifth guy in our rotation, that's when everything changed for that. Next happened in 2004. The Red Sox traded away Nomar Garciaparra for Orlando Cabrera and Doug Minkiewicz.
That's a C, because Nomar was one of the most beloved Red Sox players for a long time, and then he went away, and if I remember correctly, he was still productive after he left the Red Sox. So it's not a good trade. C, best case.
I would give that a B-, because I think in the end it kind of worked out for the Red Sox, only because Nomar was injured for the longest time. He just kept getting injured season after season. Because he was traded away in 2004. He didn't make his first appearance back in Fenway until 2009. And that was partially due to schedule, but I think also partially due to injuries as well. Orlando Cabrera only lasted with us for that half a season. Same with Doug Minkiewicz. Or actually, wait, did Minkiewicz? I think he played until 2006. But they didn't last long in a Red Sox uniform, and Doug Minkiewicz also fought fought the Red Sox on who can hold the ball. Yeah, he was also a rental. He only lasted that season with us, and he fought the Red Sox on possession of that baseball that he caught for the final out of the World Series.
C minus.
C minus. No, yeah, I wouldn't put it past. B minus, C minus, somewhere in that range. That same year, the Patriots, the Red Sox acquired Dave Roberts for Henry Stanley.
They acquired Dave Roberts. I'm trying to. That one is tough. I can't. I mean, again, that's all during that time, so I feel like the grades just skew higher because the end goal worked out. So it just, I mean, it has to be a B because it's just like perfectly, like it just kept everything balanced at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
I think that I mean, at the end of the day, who the hell is Henry Stanley? And Dave Roberts made the most iconic steal in baseball history. So that's at least an A minus in my opinion. And again, another rental. You know, we were just like, hey, we're gonna use you, and that's it. We're done. He went to San Diego right after that. The next deal happened in 2008. It's going to be a little bit long, but in retrospect, it's as simple as the Red Sox traded Manny Ramirez to the Dodgers, and in exchange, the Sox got Jason Bay. What are your thoughts on that?
Man, Bull, it's just that's a tough one because I mean, again, Manny Ramirez is beloved, but at that point in his career, he was done for. Like he never really had achieved any of the heights that he did. If anything, he was better in the friggin' foreign leagues that he did afterwards. Jason Bay, on the other hand, I think was still a little more or less productive. I would give it a B plus because I think the ramifications of that trade was way more for the Red Sox, and then it started opening them up into their following set of run of championships.
Yeah, well, that Manny Ramirez deal was inevitable, especially after he called out the team literally like a week prior to the deadline. And if I remember correctly, too, he sat out a game on purpose. Like he was scheduled to sit out for a game, but then in like the bottom of the eighth, bottom of the ninth, we needed a bat to come in to pinch hit, and we asked him, and he got so pissed at that he's like, "Yeah, I'm done," basically, and that's part of the reason why we traded him. But Jason Bay, I loved Jason Bay. I was so sad to see him go after the 2009 season. So we had him for at least a year and a half, and the full year he played for us, he was an All-Star. He finished seventh in the MVP voting. But yeah, I give that. I think that deserves like a B. You know, maybe a B minus. It was such a big trade. The Dodgers got Ramirez, the Sox got Bay. Meanwhile, the Pirates got Brandon Moss, Craig Hansen, Andy LaRoche, Brian Morris. So all in all, then I'm going to jump ahead to 2013. In 2013, the Red Sox traded for Jake Peavy from the White Sox while giving up Jose Iglesias to the Tigers, and sent also Luis Rondon, Frankie Montes, and J.B. Wendelken to the White Sox. What are your thoughts on that deal?
JP was pretty damn good, man. He was I remember Jake Peavy. He was like just very solid. I mean, they definitely gave up a lot, but I think it was worth it at the end of the day. I mean, I don't remember him being there for long, but yeah, I'd still give it a B, high B, honestly. I can't even tell you most of the people that they gave up for, honestly. They end up kind of just maybe being minor league guys, if anything, or but yeah, I still rate that trade very well for the Red Sox.
Yeah, that trade to me definitely gets an A. When I first saw it, I was kind of like shocked because I thought Jose Iglesias was going to be the next shortstop for the Red Sox. But then that opened the door for Xander Bogaerts to come in. And so getting Jake Peavy, which helped us immensely come the 2013 playoffs. Excuse me. I rate that an A. I rate that deal an A because so Louis Rondon, Frankie Montas, and JB Wendelken. I feel like I heard of JB Wendelken, but like if I did, it wasn't anything massive or extraordinary. So the only guy, Jose Iglesias, was what we gave up, and it opened the door for Xander Bogaerts. Yeah, I'll take that any day of the week and twice on Sunday. So that to me gets an A. The following year, the Red Sox traded John Lester and Hacksaw Johnny Gomes for Yoenis Cespedes to Oakland. You remember that deal?
I don't. That's the crazy thing. I really don't remember Cespedes. I mean, I remember him at most of his stops, but for whatever reason, that was one that kind of slipped for me. But I mean, Cespedes was also very good. I can't remember how that went, but I mean, I think I'm just gonna say I think it's still like an A minus, B plus, because it's just like even with these being rentals, they still were immediate impacts and they still helped out the Red Sox.
Yeah, well, 2014 was not a good year for Boston. If I remember correctly, we didn't make the playoffs that year. But the issue that I had with that was when I first saw it, it wasn't surprising to me because the whole contract negotiation, yeah, the Red Sox finished last in the AL East. They sucked. But the whole contract negotiations with John Lester is what really spurred this. And that's why I think it was not, I don't want to say a tragedy. It was a tragedy, but I saw it and was kind of like, I was expecting it because I knew they were going to come to an agreement. So when that all went down, John Lester, I was kind of glad for him because I knew he'd leave and he'd, hit the free agent market. We got Yoenis Cespedes, who was a heck of a player at that time. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, look at that. We got Cespedes. We can re-sign him. We can sign John Lester from the free agency market, which never happened. And then we let Cespedes walk. And it was just kind of nobody won in that trade, in my opinion. So I'm just going to – I rate that a D because at the end of the day, no one won in that deal because Cespedes left. Lester left Oakland. It was a tragedy, really, that they felt obligated to trade John Lester, who was beloved by Boston, beloved.
He was also towards the end of his impact, though. I mean, it was one of those just like tugs at your heartstrings. Lester played such a massive impact on those Red Sox championships, but I think it was time to let go. I definitely do agree that letting Cespedes walk was a big mistake because he ended up being so much better after he left. But I mean, I think it's just so hard with these contract disputes because it does become a distraction, and once it really starts hitting the news and it's all hearsay, it's just they had to cut loose with him, sadly, even though it was tragic in a way.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing though, John Lester, when we traded him, was 30 years old. Like he just turned 30 in 2014. He finally called it quits in 2021. And he played with Chicago with the Cubs from 2015 to 2020 and helped them win a World Series, breaking the curse of the Billy Goat for them. And that's where it just pissed me off because John Lester still had plenty of good years left in him. I just look at it as, he was willing to get a hometown discount, but the Red Sox were just too damn cheap and they just undersold him. And, they're like, this is our number, take it or leave it. He left it and they ended up trading him. And I say to John, good. I'm glad you went out. You got paid. Hey, you helped Chicago break the curse of the Billy Goat in 2016. But he still should have been a Red Sox at the end of the day. That's what bothers me. And then in 2018, the Red Sox traded for Steve Pearce from the Blue Jays for Santiago Espinal and Nathan Eovaldi from the Rays for Jalen Beeks. And Jalen Beeks actually just got moved this trade deadline as well from Tampa.
I like the Evaldi. It's probably gonna be like a D plus. Like the Evaldi was very good. Probably should have still been on the team. Probably should still be on the team right now, honestly, for being completely honest. But yeah, I'd say like a D.
Both those. So I give both of them an A. You have
Really?
Steve Pearce ended up being World Series MVP for the Red Sox, and Nathan Eovaldi was arguable the World Series MVP.
I'm sorry, I had it backwards. Sorry, I had it backwards. No, you're right. You're right. Okay, I'm sorry.
No.
But yeah,
you're good. But yeah, like that to me was, like those two at the time were middling moves. Like I looked them as middling moves, but we were so stacked in 2018 that I was like, of course, like we should be doing this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, there's a rumor floating around. The White Sox want the Red Sox to take Benintendi back in a potential deal for Garrett Crochet. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I've been hearing some rumors that Crochet. I mean, I've been hearing that I think the Braves are in the mix for him too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Benintendi was good a couple years ago. Now, could care less. I mean, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind a Crochet trade. 1 second.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those where I look at that and listen, Benintendi was great in 2018, and then just something happened in 2019 with no Alex Cora, and he just fell off the market. Like he just fell off everything, and I couldn't believe it. And I wonder if that's because of no Alex Cora, or if there was just he for lack of a better word, wasted his talent in 2018. Everything came up Benintendi in 2018. Just after that, he sucked. So looking over everything, right? Looking it over, the Red Sox have done some good, but with 22 minutes remaining, it just doesn't feel like it's enough. It feels like we're back on this, just classic Red Sox move where they're trying to solely focus on the future. Yes, Breslow gets to walk out there and tout that, hey, see, I bought at the deadline. I did it. What do you think? Do you think that so far, with all the moves that Boston has made, that it's been good enough? Because so far, it hasn't been, right? I mean, I mentioned James Paxton trading for a backup of Danny Jansen, getting Quinn Priester, which is a prospect for a prospect move. And now finally, yes, you made something going on. You made some move for the now in Lucas Sims from Cincinnati, but ultimately, I am not excited. I am not excited for the future if this is it. There's 20 minutes remaining in this trade deadline. I'm keeping my nose to the grindstone here, being on Twitter and MLB .com. So if you haven't already, please comment, like, share, subscribe. We are on all the social media platforms. Boston Sports Summit on Instagram, Boss Sports Summit on Twitter, on YouTube, as well as being on the Grid Network. That is where this show comes to you live every Wednesday. Tonight is an exception. We're here Tuesday. There will be no show tomorrow, but it's just kind of crazy to me that this is what the Red Sox have become. They're so focused on the future of this team that they're almost like, we don't care about the present. If that means we're not winning, we're not even going to the playoffs, fine, so be it. That's what you get when an owner looks at you, when an owner looks at an organization like it's an asset. That's what it is. John Henry doesn't care. Whereas I can tell you right now, if I was running the Red Sox, this whole thing would be a very different story. Very different story. But unfortunately, I don't have the money to buy the team. Damn. Too bad. No worries. Frequent commenter, not Doug, comments, can you run through the moves today? Absolutely. So the moves so far today that the Red Sox made was trading for Lucas Sims, trading Ovis Portez, who's the 29th ranked prospect in the Red Sox system, for reliever Lucas Sims, who has some upside. He has some upside for the Red Sox, but of course everything just goes down on me. Like for the time being, because he is a closer, but unfortunately, it's not a massive move, right? At first I thought this move, Nick York for Quinn Priester from Pittsburgh, was going to be a big move. But then, of course, the more I found out about Quinn Priester having a 6 ERA, was able to drop it down to over 5 ERA this season, was not so good. He can't help now, especially the fact that after we traded for him, they optioned him straight to AAA. They're not even giving that kid an opportunity to pitch in the majors for the Red Sox. They're like, no, go to Worcester. Hopefully we can fix your stuff, and then you can come up either by the end of this year or next year. And then a couple of days ago, the Boston traded 3 prospects to Toronto for Danny Jansen, who's a backup catcher, who's a right-handed hitter. They like his swing, which is, and hopefully that his swing fits Fenway Park. And then lastly, the start of it all was the Red Sox. Shortly after my show last week, the Red Sox traded Moises Boulevard for James Paxton of the Dodgers. So it's been kind of an interesting turn of events for the Red Sox. And Dylan, any remaining thoughts on the Red Sox move so far?
No, I mean, honestly, I could care less about them right now. I'm seeing some crazy trades going through right now that over the past couple minutes, I don't know if you've looked over. Phillies are finalizing a deal to acquire Mason Miller from the Oakland Athletics. There was also Brian De La Cruz going to the Pirates. Mariners going to be getting Ryan McMahon. They're finalizing that trade as well. And then there's also the Crochet that we just talked about. The Mets are finalizing a deal to get Garrett Crochet right now. So a lot's been going on over the past couple minutes. So, and none of this is official. Like, it's all just finalizing on principle. So, we'll actually see how these trades come down to the wire.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. And you know what? It's just kind of shameful, to me, to watch a team like the Mets get freaking Garrett Crochet. Like, what are they going to do about that? Like, they're not. Yes, they've been turning it on fairly recently, but where are they sitting? Are they even in playoff contention right now?
I think they are. They're the hottest team in baseball right now. I imagine they're like at least in that running.
Oh, and you look at, because they're not a wildcat. All right, so they're tied. So them and the Padres, the Mets and Padres are tied for the second wild card spot. So technically, the wild card, if the playoffs started today, would be the Braves is the first wild card team. Then it would be a battle between the Mets and the Padres, with the game taking place at, I don't even know the stadium. Shea Stadium. That's
City
what
Fields.
I know. City Field. Thank you. Yeah, that's goes to show how much Mets I know outside of Pete Alonso. But yeah, like So the Mets and Padres are in it with the Diamondbacks a half game back. I don't know. I just think that's utterly ridiculous.
Mets are exciting though. I think they think you just have to ride that wave. Because especially with how disastrous they had last year with all those stars that were aging, and then they were like, we'll throw the ball away by trade deadline. We don't even give them a full year. Fuck that. So it's like, why not? You pass a month and a half to be on tear. They're on the grimace high, so you might as well just friggin' try to try to take advantage.
Yeah, McDonald's character is what puts them over the edge.
Hey man, they got purple jerseys. They got grimace. I don't know. I feel like it all just lined up a little too well for them.
Well, apparently 6 minutes ago, Ken Rosenthal, Mets acquiring reliever Huascar. You know what? I can't even say this. Brazoban from the Marlins. It's just, I feel like I feel like everybody else is going out making moves, doing all these things, whereas the Red Sox, they're like, nah, we'll just play with what we have. We're pretty much content, even though Alex Cora said a month ago that there are three things that can happen at the trade deadline: it's you buy, you sell, or you stand pat. And obviously, the Red Sox haven't sold, and I don't think the Red Sox are technically gonna sell. But the Red Sox, in my opinion, haven't been buyers. They've been borderline staying pat with the option to buy. Meanwhile, you have all these other teams going out. The Kansas City Royals went out and traded for starter Michael Lorenzen. They got Paul DeJong, and so they've improved. The Astros sold the top pitching prospect to get rental lefty UC Kikuchi, who is one of the best relievers right now. And it's definitely it's a big cost for Houston, but they don't care. They're like, we're in it to win it. The Mariners, meanwhile, went out and got Randy Arozarena and traded for Justin Turner just the other night, former Boston Red Sox. So like these other teams are going out, they're making splashes, they're making moves. But the Red Sox feel content on keeping their guys. They're like, no, we're going to keep our guys. And as great as cool as that is, how is that going to help us now?
Speaking of things that just to improve your mood, Orioles are finalizing a deal to acquire Eloy Jimenez from the White Sox. So now the Orioles are getting stronger.
Perfect.
And again, the Red Sox are just sitting there. I'm more mad that the Pirates are making moves than anything. The Mets, whatever. But the fact that the Pirates, they're worse off. They're not even they still don't even have a chance to make the playoffs. They do, but they don't. I don't think they have the ability, even with these trades that they've been making. But yeah, it is definitely frustrating that the Red Sox still choose to just sit around and just say, "Oh, maybe next year. Oh, maybe next year. Oh, well, how about next year?" I don't understand. It just makes no sense.
This is one of the most boring trade deadlines because I feel like all the teams that are that want to buy, that are going out. All the teams that want to sell are looking for this haul that very few teams can or want to give. Because, again, look at the Astros. They got a rental lefty, UC Kikuchi, for their top pitching prospect in Jake Bloss. And if you go onto the MLB, my computer busted here. Don't you love how that happens? It's like you're trying to do something and
Yeah, God forbid you try to multitask. It's just like, nah, sorry.
Yeah, good job. Good try. But regardless, the top pitching prospect, is gone. Like how that doesn't make sense to me. And listen, I'm not saying that the Red Sox are loaded um, with prospects. Like we have some, but if we're talking about like top 100 guys, yeah, that's a heck of a lot harder to do than our system itself. But we're so this is what happened with Kyle Bloom is that he fell in love. Now the difference between Bloom and Breslow is that he sold Nick York and got Quinn Priester instead. But that's all well and good. The only issue with that is it doesn't help us now. Nick York's value 2 years ago would have been a heck of a lot higher, and we could have gotten a heck of a lot more for him. But Kyle Bloom was so steadfast in holding on to these guys that right now there's 8 minutes left of this trade deadline. And my biggest fear is that the Red Sox aren't going to do a damn thing from here until 6 o'clock.
Yankees just traded for Tyler Anderson from the Angels. So yeah, it's like literally everybody else is doing stuff, and the Red Sox are just sitting idle doing nothing. There's not even any rumors. There's no even talks about, oh, the Red Sox try to grab this dude, but talks. There's none of that. They're not even trying. Like it really like we're just wasting our breath at this point with the Red Sox because it's like they're just gonna just sit around. Maybe they'll be lucky to get a wild card spot and maybe a first round exit, best case scenario at this point. Like it's just sad.
Yeah, and again, like I want this team to do something. Like I want them to just push it in, and the fact too that we started this show off with the rumor that Roman Anthony was a healthy scratch tonight because and I think it just said a healthy scratch, so it wasn't implied, but. That's what happens on MLB Trade Deadline Day. If you're a healthy scratch and you're a top prospect for a team, or you're a star player for a team, there's a massive opportunity. Or excuse me, there is a massive hint that you're going to be on the move. So the fact that we started the show off with Roman Anthony being discussed as the guy who's a healthy scratch, it's almost like, holy crap, what's going to come down the pipeline? Only for 10 minutes later, that bubble to get burst. And, he was already scratched from tonight. There is no trade, there is no deal with Roman Anthony on the table. And I'm kind of like, that sucks. As much as there's a possibility that Roman Anthony could be a stud down the line, and listen, I'll be the first to admit it. If 5 years from now he's one of our superstar players, helping us make run at a World Series. But you know what? Right here, right now, July 30th at 5:54 p.m. with the trade deadline ending in less than 6 minutes of 2024. Yeah, I wish we traded Roman Anthony for a superstar pitcher or a superstar hitter. I do. Because then there would be something to talk about. I could go over and over and over again saying how the Red Sox haven't done a thing. Yeah, okay, we traded for 4 guys, one of which I called and thought it was ridiculous. And then another guy, we traded prospect for prospect. Whoop-de-doo. Like, that's it. That's the Red Sox in a nutshell. And that's, you know what, for just to bring it back, because I have no problem admitting it, that's the problem with nerds. Nerds! They make everything so effing boring. And I feel like that's where we're sitting today.
Yeah, no, it's really sad. It's a sad state of affairs for Boston. It really is. IKF just went to the Pirates, so another Pirates acquisition. Like
Jack Flaherty's going to the effing Dodgers. Are you kidding me?
Oh, he actually did? I thought he wasn't gonna get traded.
Jeff Passan 30 seconds ago, breaking Flaherty to the Dodgers. You know what? I said this at the start of the season when they went out and signed Ohtani to I'm sorry, for people watching with kids in the room, cover their ears, to a bullshit deal worth $700 million. That's all backloaded after his career. You know, in backloaded, meaning he's getting paid $2 million for the next 10 years. And then the final 10 years of his deal, it's all $20 million or $50 million. It's stupid. That deal is stupid. Only to get the other pitcher from Japan, only to get Jack Flaherty, to have Mookie Betts, to have Freddie Freeman. You know what? This is why I hate LA. And again, I hate LA for 1,000 different reasons. But the Dodgers are a team that no one in LA cares about. They're not the Lakers. Okay? It's a team that exists. They should have left Brooklyn, in my opinion. Any LA team outside of the Lakers has a fan base that does not exist. They are not true fans. The fact that the Dodgers got Jack effing Flaherty, I cannot wait for the wild card team in the National League to beat the Dodgers. I can't. It's going to be so nice to see when the Dodgers lose again with the roster that they have. Unbelievable.
I'm so glad that I agree with you on that on the whole Ohtani contract. Because I remember going on Bryson Carver's show, the 8 o'clock spot, and when that happened, and I was saying that this is going to be a trade, this is going to be a deal that effectively ruins the fun of baseball for a while, because it makes it's just a contract that just makes no sense. I mean, obviously makes sense for the Dodgers because, you're paying the best player in baseball peanuts because he can afford to just wait until he retires to get hundreds of millions of dollars worth of money. And I was told well, this is only something that could only happen every once in a while. This is like a once in a while. But I don't care. I feel like it was just so egregious, so much of a slap in the face where it's you couldn't even give him $20-30 million and put away the rest for the end of the thing. You had to, let's just say, I forgot how much it was, a $500 million, right? It was a $500 million deal for that. And
700.
Again, 700, and about 20 million of that's going to be paid out while he plays, maybe a little more. And then the rest is just whoever owns the Dodgers in 2032 will figure that out for us. That just sounds like the Dodgers just aren't going to exist anymore in 2032, because I just don't understand how you're going to give all this dead money. It'll make the Bobby Bonilla contract nothing. We're showing it's going to be year 2105, and Shohei Ohtani is still going to be getting money. It's going to be Happy Shohei Day. We're going to forget about Bobby Bonilla. But you and I will both be dead by then. But whatever is left of baseball, they're going to be remembering how awful of a contract this is.
Oh, yeah, no, and that's it. As I'm trying to figure out the parameters, it's just an absolute joke. And then the irony behind it too is that his friggin' translator, as the trade deadline comes to an end officially right now, his translator gets caught for embezzling millions of dollars from Shohei Ohtani, and he had no idea. Please, you're telling me that your translator had no idea? That Shohei Ohtani had no idea that his translator was embezzling that much money? Either you're just a fool or you are in on it. And my thing is, he's in on it because best part about Ohtani is that he doesn't speak the language. So he gets to sit there and be plausible deniability. What? No. I can't even talk. I can't even talk because I have to sit here and tell my interpreter everything. And then the interpreter gets to say whatever the hell he wants. Like, it's like, I can't, it drives me bananas.
And we've seen clips of Shohei speaking English too. It's not like he can't. It only just makes it more confusing. It only just makes more sense that Shohei was actually gambling and he hid it behind his translator, so to speak, so he doesn't get in trouble. That's the only explanation.
Only explanation. And I'm sorry, but if you're coming to America to play a professional American sport and you're making all this money, you should have a translator for at most 3 years. 3 to 5 years, you can have a translator. After that, if you haven't learned the language by then, I mean, I'm sorry. Like, that's just foolish. But
especially at his status. Like, I feel like there are some players that, like, if you're not as well known, you don't really get the limelight, fine. But Shohei has been the star in the MLB since he came on. And, I mean, and again, we've seen clips of him speaking English without his translator around. Like, it just seems like a bad act. Like, I can almost understand where it's like Shohei doesn't want to be mistranslated, he doesn't want to be misspoken about. But when you have all these allegations around, you have all this crazy stuff, like all this fishiness, and I mean, again, he gets away with it because he's Shohei. He gets away with it because, he's the biggest market piece that the baseball has. But if this was, the backup third baseman on the Colorado Rockies, he would get axed immediately. He wouldn't have a translator, especially if millions of dollars being embezzled and gambling. Like, it just, like, again, he just gets preferential treatment because of this stardom.
All right, so as of 58 seconds ago, at the deadline, the Red Sox made a trade for Luis Garcia of the Angels.
Wow, that's something.
All right, so at least they did something at the deadline. And of course, just to rain on all the Dodger fans out there, the Dodgers also added center fielder Kevin Kiermaier from the Blue Jays on top of getting Jack Flaherty. And just to go off the Ohtani deal, just to finish that conversation up, he deferred $68 million of his $70 million each year. So the remaining $680 million will be paid to Ohtani beginning after the 2033 MLB season. Just absolute ridiculousness. That is Shohei Ohtani and the LA Dodgers. So Luis Garcia is an interesting move.
What will happen first? Shohei Ohtani's contract getting paid out, or World War III? I think I have World War III on that bet, honestly.
Easily.
So even if they pay $10 million a year after 2033, you're looking at 2,100 something to be the end of that payout. Like, it just none of that makes sense. It's still, the more you say it, the less I understand.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. So, all right. So Luis Garcia traded the Red Sox, still trying to wait to see what he was traded for. He's 26 years old. He's been in the league for 4 years. He's not terrible. I mean, when you're looking at it, he's got a 4, or actually that's last year. So his ERA has actually gone up every single year he's been in the big leagues. He started off with, in 12 and a third innings pitched in 2020. He had a 2.92 ERA. In 2021, when he was 24, it looks like his first full season as a pitcher in Major League Baseball. He pitched 155 and a third innings with a 3.48 ERA. It's still pretty good. In 28 games started. And then in 2022, 28 games started, has a 3.72 ERA over 157 and a third innings pitched. And then last year, he only he only started 6 games and had a 4 ERA.
I don't hate it. He's an innings eater. When he's healthy, he's an innings eater, and I mean that's what you want in a pitcher. You want your starting pitcher to pitch as much as possible. I mean, even with the ERA not being ideal, um, I don't hate it as long as they're not overpaying, which I don't think they are, because I don't think Luis Garcia is really going for much on the market, anyways. I think he'll be fine. It's just barring if he's healthy. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this guy has a good mix of a sinker, slider, splitter, and with Andrew Bailey talking all about how he wants to build up that, like that's how he gets the guys. He's like, stop throwing fastballs and focus on spin rate and movement of the baseball, which again, it's kind of like a no-brainer, in terms of the philosophy of like, oh, the more spin you put on the ball, the more swings and misses you'll get. Well, yeah, if the ball's starting here and finishing here, obviously, again, it's the hardest thing to do in baseball. But
also pitchers throwing so hard too. It's like you almost don't want your pitchers throwing over 100 miles per hour consistently anymore. Like I remember a couple years ago that was all the rage. You wanted all of your pitchers to throw over 100 miles per hour because that's also hard to hit too compared to a sinker. But then then all these pitchers, they start having elbow problems out of nowhere, and maybe you shouldn't throw as hard as you can. Maybe you should have better control. Maybe you should have some breaking ball pitches to help you know fill out your arsenal rather than just try to throw the hell out of the ball. Like, who would have thought?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And frequent commenter, not Doug, writes in, do you think the nerds are telling the team to stay where they are? And then, so answering this question first, yeah, I wholeheartedly believe that. Cora has gone on multiple times for the last 3 years asking, add. We're in a better spot than we were the year before. We should be adding at the deadline. Kyan Bloom didn't do it. And I think with this deal with Luis Garcia, it definitely boosts what I thought, what I was prepared to discuss over this final hour here. Because, man, like that was going to be such a heartbreaker if they didn't add at least another bullpen arm, and they did. And Luis Garcia has been pretty good, at least since he finished what, second? Where is it? I just had it. In 2021, he was second in Rookie of the Year voting, behind Randy Arozarena. So, I mean, with that being said, the thing with Breslow and Bloom and those guys is they're looking at it, and this is speculation, but this is how I believe they're looking at it, is they look at the numbers, and they have a little calculator that says, well, if we want, for instance, Luis Garcia, right? That means we should be offering from our selection X, Y, and Z, rather than looking at it from a standpoint of, this is how I see it. These are the players that I believe are good versus these are the players I don't believe are good, yet Major League Baseball believes they're good. So if that's the case, then, hey, Anaheim, yeah, we want Luis Garcia, but we also want this player as well. And I'm willing to give up Roman Anthony. For all intents and purposes, let's just say Roman Anthony doesn't pan out, and Craig Breslow knew that, even though MLB prospect pool has him 14th in all of baseball. We don't like what he's going to look like in the future. So, hey, we want Jack Flaherty, or we want so-and-so. We'll give up Roman Anthony for it. That's what I feel like the nerds don't understand. Is they only look at things analytically. They look at the numbers. They don't look at the player. You know, that movie with Clint Eastwood, Trouble with the Curve, you know, is a perfect example of that. Because a perfect example of where baseball is today. Because you had the guy that played Scooby Doo as the analytics guy for the Braves. I don't know his name. He played the analytics guy, talking about how this guy's the best prospect. Look at how he hits the ball. But when Clint Eastwood went to his games and watched him live, he knew he wasn't able to hit a curveball. And so they ended up drafting him, even though Clint Eastwood didn't want him. And when they brought in a prospect that Clint Eastwood's daughter found, which, again, that's a little out there, but when she found him, who could throw a curveball, and that's all he threw to the analytics guy's player, he couldn't touch it, and so they wasted basically a top 5 pick on a guy who can't hit a freaking curveball. That's the problem with analytics. They don't have a feel for the game.
I mean, again, I feel like analytics has its place. I mean, I also come from place for bias. I have a buddy that works in the scouting department for the Rockies. Granted, the Rockies are one of the worst teams in the league, but that's still always a fun flex to say. Regardless, I just think that it's like, yeah, your numbers are great. Sure, they kind of put you in a way where you have better probabilities to have the outcomes that you want. But but again, everything comes down to human error. And and even if you were to try to mathematically probability give yourself the best option, it still, I think there should be more of an eye test. Scouts should really actually watch the game more. And I mean, again, do advanced stats help? Of course they do, because I mean, now we don't even use slugging percentage anymore. We just use OPS. I hate that batting average is no longer a thing that people care about anymore. I remember when I was a kid, 300 batting average is like, oh, if you could hit 300 batting average, you'd be a great MLB player. Now you don't care about batting average anymore. It's
Well,
more about, can you hit the home run or not?
and
For a
a
lot of
300
people.
batting average back in the day was an average ball player. Like, let's not forget, 300, while good, was an average ball player back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s. All of a sudden, it's been the last decade that
250.
if you
But
bat in 250, you're an average ball player. And it's like, wait, what? No, like, not even. Yeah, at the end of the day, the Red Sox, Tom Caron tweeted out, in the end, the Red Sox traded prospects for 2 relievers, a back-end starter, and a backup catcher. Nothing that will necessarily wow you, but a clear indication that they are willing to trade prospects to improve their chances this year. We'll see if it's enough. And I mean, I kind of agree with that, but I kind of disagree with that, because I just look at it going, yeah, they're willing to trade prospects, but they're not. Nick York was an obvious, we got to get rid of this guy. We have way too many second basemen, middle infielders. So at the end of the deal, I feel like they almost just took the best deal that they could get, or took the first option, which was the Quinn Priester deal, rather than try to not promote, but try to say, hey, we got Nick York, guys. We could do X, Y, and Z with him, blah, blah, blah. And instead, they just did that. I look at it, and I want to give this trade deadline a B. I really do. But I'm kind of teetering towards a C plus. Dylan, what are your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, especially on the deadline day, there wasn't any crazy names. I like what some teams are doing. There are some teams, I mean, as much as I was talking crap about the Pirates, I mean, I do like what they're doing, because, again, they're putting their nuts on the table. They're like, we have a chance. Let's go for it. I can always respect a team that says, hey, let's do it. Worry about the consequences later. Let's worry about winning baseball. Let's worry about trying to get into the playoffs and make some noise. I can never respect a team like the Red Sox where it's like, yeah, we'll move around some minor league prospects. Maybe we'll just make one trade for Luis Garcia at the end just to make it look like we did something. But unless Luis Garcia is going to be lights out for the rest of the season, he's only going to make the rotation marginally better. He's not going to, he'll eat innings. Hopefully he'll have some quality starts, and maybe they probably will win a few extra games with him on the team, but there's still so much more that could have been done, and especially with where they are right now, it's not like they have the studs or the stars to be like, hey, we're good where we are, let's run it. It's just more like we're fine. But then even with like other teams too, it's like the Yankees and Orioles are going to be exciting to see how they fight, even though I don't want either of them to win the World Series. And I mean, yeah, but yeah, it has been kind of boring in the sense that there wasn't any crazy pivotal like, oh, you know, like just like those trades that really stand out that just make like Twitter melt. Like there really hasn't been one.
Yeah. Well, Jack Flaherty is definitely one.
Well, yeah, I mean the Dodgers too. I mean, like they don't have fans like you said. I definitely agree with you on that. And the Dodgers, their only ring was the COVID ring in recent memory, despite being constantly one of the highest payrolls in the MLB. So until they do it, they're just gonna always look like a pretty team on paper. So we'll see.
Oh my God. So the the Luis Garcia stats that I read you earlier, that was the wrong Luis Garcia.
Oh no! Tell me that like a 6 ERA is the actual Luis Garcia we got.
No. So the Luis Garcia that I thought that I looked up, what's so funny? Because I'm looking at it going, I wonder why it doesn't show him playing for Anaheim. It only showed him playing for Houston. Yeah, that'll boy.
Oh, man.
That's how you do. That's how you do it, man. These live streams, they get you.
You had my hopes up, man. I'm like, oh man, they actually got the rotation piece we wanted, but
No, they in turn got a seventh inning guy who, sure, this year he's got a 3.71 ERA. He's pitched in 43 and 2/3 innings. Has an 8.2 strikeouts per 9 innings and a 2.9 walks per 9 innings. He's got the 85th percentile fastball velocity and 86th percentile ground ball. He's a rental, especially due to the fact that he's 37 years old. So that doesn't make me excited. All right, so now trade deadline. C. I give this trade deadline a C. I don't give it. It's not a B, not a B plus, not a B minus. C.
That's fair. Totally fair. I no notes on that, honestly.
And not Doug comments. This is the second question that he had. Maybe their goal is to build for the future and not now. And listen, I don't like that. I understand it, but I don't like it.
What were the past 5 years? We've been doing nothing but building. What are we building for?
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Marcelo Meyer, I feel like, has been in our prospect pool since he was 5 years old. How often I feel like I've heard his name thrown around before. He's been in the prospect since like 2014. Now I know that's wrong because he's like 22 years old, but even still, it's like Fabian Lysol for the Bruins. I feel like Lysol, even though he's 21 years old, has been in the Bruins farm system for the last like 15 years or something stupid like that. Obviously hyperbole, but it's just I feel like I hear these guys' names so often that it's that they've been around for a long time. And so that's the issue that I have. I'm looking at it going, great. We just bolstered our relievers. That's it. And while I get it, every single move that we made was a middling move. There was no Jack Flaherty. There was no Tariq Schubel, or Tarek Schubel from the Tigers. None of these guys, or the Red Sox decided not to go after any of them. And it kind of sucks. It's boring.
Like not even like a top prospect. 'Cause even if it was like a top prospect that's MLB ready, like that would at least be something to talk about. We're talking about a relief pitcher that can barely stay under 4 ERA, only pitching like 1 or 2 innings of relief. And he's not. And I mean, again, it's like okay, maybe he'll have a save opportunity if we need him, but again, there's just there's no focus. Like, what's his vision? I don't like if there was a vision, if there was like even if they just explicitly said these are the players we want to build around, that at least gives you a picture of how they want to run things. But it just looks like John Henry's just bouncing his checkbook, a couple
No,
moves
see,
here, a little there. It's just.
I actually think they did. They did tell us
Did they?
how they
I missed it.
how they want to build, who they want to build around, and it's Meyer, Anthony, Teal, Rafaela, Duran, and Houck.
Yeah.
And Bayo. Like that's the guys they want to build around. They don't want to build around anybody else. And so
Until they have to pay them.
Yeah, until they have to pay them, exactly. But it's this whole idea of, well, we need to trade for guys who are under team control. That's where I don't know. I have several articles from the last 12 hours that talk about Red Sox reportedly interested in potential trade for Garrett Crochet. Didn't get traded today. Potential Red Sox trade target named to watch with deadline looming. And it was Angels left-hander Tyler Anderson, who was dealt. What else? Tigers breakout utility man is an option for the Red Sox per insider. Andy Ibanez with a 1.027 OPS against left-handers is an option for Boston. Like all these different options being thrown around there, all these different names. And yeah, you know what? You can't help but get excited. Instead, we're left with the Red Sox listening to Chad freaking Finn saying the Red Sox cannot be as cold or as bold as the Rays, because the Rays were just selling everybody. Isaac Paredes, Randy Arozarena, Zach Eflin. Like they sold off everybody. This market cares too much to allow a team with a winning record to hold a fire sale, and this team is too likable, even with all its flaws. So I don't understand why Chad Finn tried to equate the Red Sox to the Rays, saying that they would have been better off selling at this deadline than they would have been buying. Like we're not the Rays for a number of reasons, even though we're trying to act like them in some regards. This team is doing a hell of a lot better than the effing Rays are.
The Rays have one of the smallest payroll too. It's like we want to be compared to one of the lowest payrolls, when in reality Boston's like one of the most like iconic, not only sports cities, but the Red Sox have been around forever. They do have the money, like if we're talking them just by pure ownership and assets, they have the capability. They have a big fan base. They have everything you could possibly want to succeed. To just buy in, to have some kind of playoff aspirations, and they do nothing. I'm sorry, Tim. I have to go.
You're good,
man. But thank you for having me on.
Appreciate you coming on.
If only the Red Sox actually gave us something to talk about. Talk to you later, man.
Yeah, sounds good, Dylan. Thanks for coming on, man.
See ya.
Yeah, so that's where we stand. I mean, my thought is, so first of all, what are you excited? Are you happy with the direction of this trade deadline? Are you looking at this like something that it's a good thing that they didn't buy as much? Or were you one of the people that wanted to sell? You can hit me up. You can comment down below. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe. You can also please follow me on all the social media platforms, Boston Sports Summit on Instagram, at BOS Sports Summit on X, and then, of course, on YouTube under Boston Sports Summit, and go live on the Grid Network every Wednesday. My thought is, with everything that has gone on Did the post All-Star break affect what Craig Breslow did? I know Chad Finn wrote about it, but the Red Sox lost all 3 series that they played after the All-Star break while being tied for third. Holding the third wild card spot. Yet they lost. They got swept by the Dodgers and then proceeded to lose 2 of 3 over the next 2 series, and including the backbreaker to the friggin' Yankees, only to have the Sox just destroy the Mariners last night off their starter, Logan Gilbert, who was an all-star, and he's the only pitcher in the majors with 3 starts of 8+ innings. That's how good Logan Gilbert was. And the way he started that game, the way both teams started, I honestly thought it was going to be a 1-0 game, a 2-1 game, something that it wasn't going to happen. What happened? The Red Sox erupted for a 7-run third inning that just put us in the running seat, and we never looked back. It was fun to watch. It was great to see, but it just made me reflect on the fact that had we been able to score more runs or just not act as stupid as we did, especially with Ceddanne Rafaela standing, a foot off the bag at third and then throwing the ball over and him getting picked off that way, it was just like, first of all, Ceddanne, what are you doing? Why isn't your foot on the bag? And then second of all, why is nobody talking about the third base coach saying, Ceddanne, put your foot on the friggin' bag? Like, it's all Rafaela's having his head up his ass, and he did. Rafaela definitely had his head up his ass. But why is nobody talking about the third base coach? That's part of his problem. Or that's part of his job, is to tell Rafaela, make sure your foot's on the bag while we are talking. But nope, they didn't do that. So it's just been a wild, couple weeks since the All-Star game. And while Durant is still, I think one of the best players on this team, even after the All-Star break. I mean, the guy won the MVP of the All-Star game, only to just keep it going. I wonder how much, had the Red Sox won at least 2 of the 3 series, had we beaten the Yankees, had we won one game against the Dodgers, would that have changed things? And had we not have lost 2 of 3 to the Rockies, had we not blown multiple games late, because that's how we lost at least half the games since the All-Star break, was because we blew the games. We had the lead, whether it was a 1-run lead or a multiple-run lead. We blew it. Our relievers sucked. Hence our need for bullpen. And I'm not mad that we added more arms. I'm just disappointed that this team is not a team that can make a strong push with a middling roster. They're not. And so I look at it going, yeah, I wanted the home run. I wanted the big shot. The one where, we had to give up one of the 3. One of the big 3. And it's already a tough situation as is, because Jarren Duran, Ceddanne Rafaela, Wilyer Abreu, Tyler O'Neill. They're all covering the outfield. Is Roman Anthony going to get a shot? I know there's plenty others. Maybe not in the top tier, but there are plenty of other guys in the system, and there are going to be plenty of free agents. I mean, you got Miguel Blaze, Yoenis Cespedes is number 4 and number 6 in the Red Sox farm system, respectively. And Cespedes is, making his way up. Matthew Lugo, he's 17 in the Red Sox farm system, but he's making a name or has been trying to make a push. Like, there are plenty of guys that we could have sold on and bought a Jack Flaherty or a Garrett Crochet. But they didn't. They didn't. And so I rate this deadline as a big, fat C. Not C+, not C-, a C. A 75. For one of those exams that you need like a 70 on or a 75 on to pass, that's what I give the Red Sox. I give them a pass, but barely. Just barely. Because you know what they say? C's get degrees, baby. So I'm looking at everything going, I'm not wowed. And this is a team that you needed to wow me in order to make me feel confident that they're in it. I don't feel like they're in it. The only guy that I'm, going to be paying attention to over the next year is going to be Quinn Priester, of the Pirates, the former Pirates, I should say. He's the guy that I'm going to be most interested in because of everything that just went down. Can he get his stuff together? Can he get his stuff together in time to help us this season? If not, next season. If not, hey, we're on to next season, right? It's not we're on to Cincinnati. We're on to next season. That's been the Red Sox philosophy for the last 3 years. And I'm worried that that's kind of how they're looking at this. They bolstered the bullpen, which they needed to do. But at the end of the day, was it enough? Was it enough for us to make a push to get a wild card spot and maybe get a whole wild card playoff game? I don't know. Twins certainly didn't do much today. They made one move. Who do they get? Who do the Twins get? They yeah. So, I mean, it's just, like I said, I'm just kind of not huge, not big on everything that happened. All right, the Twins acquired right-handed pitcher Trevor Richards from the Blue Jays. All right. So, yeah, they got a right-handed pitcher. So I think the Red Sox can overcome the Twins because the Twins just stayed pat. They didn't make a big-time move to do anything. They were one of the teams that didn't make a move. And if we're looking at the wild card standings, the Yankees, obviously, they made some moves, getting Jazz Chisholm. The Twins, they got Trevor Richards. Kansas City, they went out. They made some solid moves, both in hitting and pitching. Red Sox obviously stuck to the pitching side of things. Mariners went out, got Justin Turner, Randy Rosarina. The Rays, basically had a complete fire sale. The Rangers tried to buy a little bit. They didn't sell off some pieces, and Detroit obviously sold off Jack Flaherty. So, it's going to be interesting, I think, at the end of the day. Frequent comment to Sports Mob. Will the next 30 days be an evaluation on the trade deadline? I think the next 30 days will be an evaluation, but I think just the rest of the season. The rest of the season is going to be an evaluation on the trade deadline. Because you're going to have guys that are going to make some immediate impact. Obviously, Danny Jansen, the catcher, made an impact. The first game he played for the Red Sox, being the only player to have 2 hits in that game against the Yankees. But with some of these other guys, it's just going to be a wait-and-see game. Because, for a guy, like I said, with Quinn Priester, he's not going to be a 30-day he's not going to be a guy that you're going to look at 30 days from now and feel confident in the move that they made. Quinn Priester is a guy I feel like you're going to be trying to make an evaluation on at some point next season. If he's not playing for the Red Sox by next season, then I think there's something wrong with him. But the other 2 guys, like James Paxton, is pitching tonight. So James Paxton is going to be getting his first start with the Red Sox tonight. So that'll be, interesting to watch. You're going to have Lucas Sims, who's probably going to get here in the next couple of days. You're going to have Luis Garcia, who's also going to get here in the next couple of days. So that's really where I'm looking at is from an entire season. And part of the evaluation is going to be the fact that did this team do enough to make the playoffs? As I've said, you're 1 game behind the Royals. Yes, the Twins didn't do much, and you did something, but did you do enough? You needed a right-handed bat. You didn't get one. All right, Danny Jansen, but that's not the guy. You needed a solid second base right-handed bat. You didn't get one. You needed starter help. And don't tell me James Paxton is starter help. And listen, if you're going to say to me that, we could have Cooper Criswell or a bullpen day, fine. I will give you that. I will give you that over Cooper Criswell and a bullpen day. James Paxton is better than those 2. But not by enough. We needed a legit top tier, top 3 starter. Didn't get one. You got a backup catcher, which, we didn't need. Now, the fact that we got rid of Reese McGuire, especially after the whole incident with him in Colorado, fine. Then the move makes sense. And I don't blame them for getting rid of Reese McGuire after the whole Cal Quantrill incident, which is actually kind of funny. I kind of feel bad for Reese McGuire with what happened with that, but not really. I just feel bad that it's been 4 years and it's his incident still got brought up. But I just look at, and then obviously Quinn Priester is not an immediate help kind of guy. So I don't know. I come away from this deadline kind of just underwhelmed. I had such high hopes, and the irony was I had such high hopes, even though I've been saying for the last 2 months that nothing's going to happen, that Craig Breslow still hasn't decided. He's going to act a lot like Chaim Bloom. Now, he didn't in the standpoint that he traded prospects. But why am I going to sit here and praise a GM just for trading prospects? Just for being different than the last guy? That's what Tom Caron did. And I don't like that. I want my GM to be bold. I want my GM to make a statement. CBO, GM, whatever. Same difference. I want him to make a statement, and he didn't. He's too concerned about the future. He's too concerned about running it, just letting the season play out for whatever reason. And that's where we stand today. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. It's been very underwhelming trade deadline, but that's what you get as a Boston Red Sox fan, right? So once again, thank you for tuning in. This was the Boston Sports Summit Trade Deadline Special here on the Grid Network, and it's been a pleasure. I am your host, Tim Barnett. And next week, we actually might have something different for you next week, because if I have done my due diligence, which I have, the NFL is going to kick off on Thursday night. That's right. The NFL is kicking off Thursday night, where we have preseason games coming at you, because it's the Hall of Fame game on Thursday, which means that preseason games are right down the line. And the Patriots are going to be kicking off a week from Thursday. August 8th, we have the Patriots playing the Carolina Panthers at Gillette Stadium. And yours truly is going to do a live stream of that game. Why? Because the first preseason game, it's football, baby. That's right. So 7 p.m., August 8th, I'm going to be coming to you live not from Gillette Stadium, but I'm going to be coming to you live, doing a live broadcast of the Carolina Panthers, New England Patriot preseason game number 1. So stay tuned for that. No show next Wednesday, because that live stream is going to take over for it. So once again, thank you so much for staying and watching us from the MLB Trade Deadline. It's been a very interesting day. So thank you guys. Have a great day. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless.